Hey guys, I hope you're all doing really well. I'm a little cosplay, and in this video I'm going to show you how I made Cara Dune's belts from the Mandalorian show on Disney Plus. And here I'm working on the pattern for the two belts. I wrapped myself with some cling wrap and then some tape, and I've just drawn a simple pattern of the two belts, how big are they going to be and where exactly they're going to be. I am going to start with the smaller belt first. Here I've already refined and separated the pattern you saw me make earlier. So here you only see about half of the pattern for the belt. All I have to do is mirror it and trace it onto some craft foam. I decided to use craft foam for this project because the belt looks fairly thin and I just want to cover it with some pleather on top. To create the bevel detailed edges that you see on the belt, I decided to use some more craft foam as it's pretty thin. Using super glue, I attached both the strips on each side, leaving a little gap in between because I really would like to push in the pleather that I'm going to glue on top so that it will create that beveled edge on top. Alright, as you can see, the base of the belt is done. All the details are done. All I have to do is cover it in pleather. And here I've already covered the smaller belt in just normal pleather. Make sure to really push in those details. I just used some scissors to make those details pop, and hide your shame with another strip of pleather on the back. And here I'm using the refined pattern I made earlier today, and this is going to be the base pattern for the second bigger belt. So this belt sits lower and also closes right on the side there. And here I've put some details on the second belt. Again, I just used some bits of craft foam and I did a ridge on either side. I'm gonna cover the whole thing in black pleather. I don't actually have green pleather, so the inner part is supposed to be green pleather, but I'm gonna have to just improvise and use some paint for that. Alright, we got a little bit further. And here is where we're at with the belts. I covered the bigger belt with pleather and in the back as well to hide my shame. For the holster, I actually put on the belt, I covered myself in some cling wrap and some tape, and I held the gun right next to my thigh, and then I just drew a pattern that I kind of roughly used, and then I also went back to the reference photos and refined that pattern. It seems like with every costume, the first thing I make is the weapon. I just really like making the weapons. However, with this, actually, I had a rhyme and a reason for it. I made the weapon because I didn't want to make the holster without having the weapon, because obviously you need the weapon to size the holster too. To make the pattern for this upper piece of the holster, I just copied the bottom piece and then just made it slightly wider so that it will curve once I actually pinned it and sewed it to the holster. Well, it doesn't look the prettiest on the inside, but that's okay, because no one's gonna see that. Hi! Okay, so here's the belt so far. This actually is supposed to be two different types of fabric. However, I couldn't find a fabric that was that specific color, so I just used the same paint that I used for the armor to paint the inside of the belt. And here are the little Bob jigs that are supposed to be on the belt. I've just made them with some craft foam and some glue, and I'm just gonna plastic dip them and paint them, and after that glue them on top. I made these little guys from different types of scrap craft foam, and I definitely recommend that you construct these after you've constructed your full belt, because they're supposed to fit right into that green area, and it's just easier to craft them after you already have the base of your belt done. So here is the belt so far. As I said before, the teal color is actually supposed to be a different fabric that I was supposed to sew in there. However, I did not own such a fabric, so I decided to just paint the belt with the same teal that I was using for all the armor pieces. And as you can see, I did not actually do any real stitching. This is just a Sharpie marker that is imitating my stitching right now. I saw also a few cracks when I was bending the belt, so before I did all the stitching, I went ahead and just mixed some matte medium with the paint and just went over the whole belt. Matte medium is just makes the paint a little bit more flexible, and it prevents it from cracking when you have to move your piece around. So I wanted to talk a little bit about matte medium. It has a lot of great uses. You can definitely paint shoes, for example, with it if you're afraid that the paint is going to crack on your shoes, or any material that you have that's going to move, like pleather. However, it has a few drawbacks. Once you actually mix it with your paint, it becomes very runny and not as pigmented, just because in a single drop of the paint there isn't as much pigment as there was before, because it's diluted now with some rubbery substance. Also, I know it's called matte medium and it implies it's supposed to be matte. However, the paint was also matte and it no longer is. So after I've mixed the two together, you can see now that there's a little bit of shine. It's almost a satin. It might not bother somebody, however, do not expect that it's going to stay as matte as it was before. It does add a little bit of shine to whatever piece you're making. And here I'm using some black oil-based paint to weather the belt. I started from the corner, which is going to be hidden, so there's going to be a flap of the other side on top of this corner. And I am just dabbing a little bit of oil-based paint around the crevices where there's supposed to be some stitching, and then I use a Q-tip to smudge it around. And here I have the little accessories to the belt drying. I just painted them in gunmetal gray. And also I finished painting the belt, so now it has some highlights and the shadows are also finished. And here are those few belt attachments already weathered and already glued onto the belt. When I was referencing my photos though to make sure that they're on their correct spot, I definitely noticed that I missed a few attachments in the back. 4 in fact. Let's make those now. And here are the few extra belt attachments that I forgot. This guy right here is made out of craft foam, and this is the belt buckle for the smaller belt. And these are for the back of the bigger belt. And I also have paint on my fingernail. We're going to skip over that. And here they are with a little stripe of green. I forgot to mention that I made these out of scrap high density foam that I had laying around, and now I'm gonna glue these on. The little boxes got glued on, and so did the Velcro. Following the reference, I added this little strap to hold the gun. However, after I glued it, I realized that hot glue doesn't really hold very well on this very shiny and smooth fabric. So what I did is I just scored it a little bit with the scissors before I'm re-gluing it back. And here are the two Cara Dune belts that I made. That one got some more Velcro on it and also on the underside of that buckle. I have already worn both of these for a photo shoot, and as you can tell, the paint started to crack. So I definitely would have added the matte medium in the very beginning and not as an afterthought on top of that, because now the paint is cracking. Again, this would not happen if you're using an actual fabric instead of paint on that specific spot, but because the belt has to bend so much, the paint ended up just cracking. It kind of looks like a weathered effect, however it's supposed to be solid, so I'm gonna have to repaint that. This little piece lasted pretty well now that I've scored the fabric underneath, and this Velcro piece is no longer coming off. All in all, the actual belts held up very well. The Velcro worked very well. I thought that I didn't put enough Velcro over there to keep the weight of the gun. However, it turned out that it was okay. I wanted to include my first fail attempt. This is supposed to be the smaller belt. I was going to paint it black, however I found that I have actual black pleather, and here's where the failed attempt is. You're supposed to have 2 ridges on the bottom and 2 on top, and here when I was gluing the little foam strips, I glued them so close together that it didn't want to make a divot in between them, so that it didn't look like there was 2 ridges. It looked like there was just one big ridge, unlike over here. So I am living my best quarantine life in my pajama pants, but I wanted to show you how the belts turned out, and I didn't want to put on the entire costume. I love how they turned out. I definitely recommend doing a custom template for your own body so the belts fit you very well. Anyways though, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!